My name is Kevin Davis. I'm Chief Executive of the Vine Trust Group, as we call ourselves. We're a community development trust that mainly operates in Walsall and the Black Country, although we do a bit in Cardiff area. We've been going for about 25 years, mainly focusing on supporting young people, but then slowly recognizing that our work with young people wasn't just about young people. It was about the communities in which it worked and lived in. So we currently focus around education, enterprise and engagement to try and do some transformational activities from schools, from social businesses, managed workspace, the whole kit and caboodle that allows everyone to have that sort of message of working together across the sectors. And I've been working with a couple of LEPs to say, hey, what can we do with the current challenges in the current economic climate? My co-presenters, shall I take?
Thanks. My name's Owen Wilcox, solicitor with T. Is the mic working all right? All right, okay. Is that better? Sorry, yeah. My name's Owen Wilcox, solicitor with TPP Law. We're a niche law firm founded in 2001. We mainly focus on public services projects, particularly with social enterprises and mutual clients, mainly in education, health and social care, and local authority spin-out projects as well.
Hi, and I'm Stephen Parsons, and so I'm an outsider today in the sense that I come from Bristol, so I'm not West Midlands based, but I'm very fond of this area. I did run a business in Dudley a few years ago, and I came across Kevin. I'll tell you about that in a minute, but I am on the LEP, which we call the West of England LEP, and I represent social enterprise as one of the leads of the 11 sector groups that we have. And I also chair Quartet Community Foundation, and there are 58 community foundations around the country, and ours is called Quartet, and it's Bristol, Bath, North Somerset and South Gloucestershire. So that's me.
Thanks, guys. In trying to prepare to share something meaningful to you guys, I came across a report yesterday. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. Have you seen this report? Why all LEPs should have social enterprise at the top of their agenda. Very, very interesting and useful report. But in fact, there's nothing new in it. Well, nothing new to Stephen and I, because the recommendations they came up with at the end is we're carrying out currently in our respective areas. My experience is not just about Vine Trust. I also have championed within the Black Country the local enterprise partnership, taking social enterprise at the top of their agenda. This particular report, which was authored by Judith Reynolds, I think it's that they're supporting the Southwest LEP, it would be Plymouth Southwest LEP, came up with 5 recommendations. So the first one was that each LEP should have a social enterprise champion on its board. Second one, that there should be some sort of mapping exercise within the areas of the LEP. The third one, that LEP should consider some sort of support packages for social enterprise and the creation of innovation centres, which will be pertinent to our discussion going on. Big push around supply chains. We've heard about some of that already today, and social enterprise entrepreneur activity should be focused to particularly help that, particularly around the social value context. And the last one was around EU funding strategy. Again, something Stephen and I have got some more recent experience. So what I thought would be a good thing, hopefully by the end of our session together, you'd have some sort of answers or some clues that you could take away to your own respective operations. Is that okay? Just so I've got a sort of feel of who's in the room, hands up, how many of you had some direct dealings with your own respective local enterprise partnerships? Okay. Sorry? Okay, brilliant. And okay, what LEPs have we got represented here today? Stoke-on-Trent, Stoke and North Staffordshire. Stoke and Staffordshire, okay. Worcestershire, okay. Greater Birmingham Solihull LEP, it's okay. Black Country LEP, there's somewhere over there. There you go, okay. So was about 4 LEPs, was it? Okay, so we've got a good spread of people who are involved or interested in it. So let's go through it. So Stephen and I are here, and we sort of titled the session, this bit of the session, 2 LEPs, 1 approach. And I was thinking, Stephen, maybe we should just jump into how did we meet? Probably be a good starter for 10.
Looks as though we're going to sing a song together, didn't? But we won't, I promise you. So just about 17 months ago, I was invited up to St James Palace, and as I don't get invited there very often, I thought, well, must go. And Prince Charles was using it as a showcase that day to introduce his charities, Prince's Trust and others, to the LEPs. So the LEPs from all over the country were invited. And my chair, Colin Skellett, couldn't go, so I stood in for him on the day. And it was probably the coldest day in January of 2012. And the Prince Charles likes to have his windows open. And so, although it was very, very cold, and although he doesn't normally run the heating, and he didn't that day, we were all there, and there was no dozing off in the corners because attention was rapt. He looked immaculate. Prince of Wales check suit, absolutely outstandingly immaculate. Eric Pickles was there as well, and Eric looked like Eric. I mean, he looked like his suit had been slept in, and but he no, please don't tweet that. He was great. Anyway, Stuart, the chair of the Black Country LEP, was there, and he gave a presentation. And in his presentation, he talked about social enterprise zones. And I made contact with him after his pitch, and I think it shows the power of people stand up, talk, and it's like throwing a pebble into a pond. The ripples go out, you don't know where they're going to hit. But out of that comment he made, and out of that pebble being thrown into the pond, Kevin and I ultimately met because Stuart put us in touch. I came up to Warsaw, and Kevin very kindly and very generously showed me what was going on. I was then starting a group back in Bristol, which was going to explore best practice, and Kevin is best practice. So Kevin came down and helped us get going, and over a period of about 18 months, we have got social enterprise zones, although we call them hubs because our politicians don't like zones, they like hubs. And we're doing that down in the West Country. So that was how we met. It was all serendipity, but life is sometimes, and good things can come out of serendipity.
Thanks, Stephen. And in terms of what certainly was serendipity, we basically come up with a joint statement as 2 LEPs. It came on the back of Biz and the Cabinet Office asking us to present about what LEPs are currently doing across the country, because they were particularly focused around the next round of EU funding. Any EU experts around the EU funding experts? I don't pretend to be one. I've got the scars of running ERDF programs over the years. But in the next round, there's a strong theme of social innovation and social enterprise. And as we know, LEPs, although obviously we got rid of the RDAs, but LEPs now are going to be in the driving seat around single pot and around directing some of these funds. So clearly, if we're really thinking about social enterprise, social innovation, how we can effectively regenerate our communities, it's important that the LEPs are informed about how they can work with those people who are got the scars and actually got a heart and concern for their areas. So the joint statement basically was motherhood and apple pie in some respects. How can we make our places where we live, work, play, learn a better place? And part of it was trying to get the LEPs, or the people associated with the LEPs, to think about how we could do this in the together model. Now we say together on the basis that me running a community development trust recognised very quickly when we were working with our young people that we couldn't tackle some of the root causes and challenges within our young people, despite our best efforts. And we have got a lot of good and best efforts. But we have to deal with some of the systemic challenges within our communities, our economic challenges, our educational challenges. And everyone needs to do that together, public, private, and civil society working together. And the LEPs, like them or loathe them, have that sort of remit for growth within a locality. So my badgering of our chair of our LEP was to say, hey, Stuart, what are you going to do about growth on a social context? What are you going to do about social enterprise? Don't know, right? But having said that, Stuart is a good guy. And it was an easy question to ask of Stuart because he's a regional chairman of business in the community. He's part of Prince's Trust. He also runs a huge sort of steel processing company, Hadley Industries. But he understands and is a big champion of the black country. So when I came to him, engaged through business in the community, engaged through seeing his Believings event, I came with him with a ready model. Now again, I don't pretend to have invented these zones ideas. I'm a shameless, what's the word? I don't want to say thief, but someone who takes advantage of an opportunity. Numerous reports have gone on about social enterprise zones. When the Tories were in opposition, have you heard of Harriet Baldwin? So Harriet Baldwin, when she was a prospective parliamentary candidate, had done a report about social enterprise zones. And the Tories were going to create these zones if they came into office. Now obviously when the election, the coalition government came in, they never got through. Enterprise zones got through with the LEPs, but nothing about social enterprise zones. So there's a report, which you can Google and search, what Harriet has done, very informative about it. So I took that as well. We already had a dream and idea in our locality in Warsaw of creating a zone where basically all the sectors would work together, work, learn, play, learn, live, and trying to pull it together and getting, hopefully, the public sector, in terms of those who have got the decision-making powers, to take it seriously. And again, if you come with a crazy, harebrained ideas, unless you've got someone who's really, really interested in you, they'll dismiss it. But if you've got something which is backed up by research, which Harriet Baldwin's report was one of them, but also there was another report done in Blackpool by Social Enterprise Solutions. They were a KIC. They'd worked with Liverpool Hope University and an initiative called Social Enterprise Towns. And when I saw that, I thought, a good model here, because it was identifiable. It gave some clear metrics and structures as to how it could work as a rollout operation. So I engaged them and said, okay, we're trying to do these social enterprise zones in our own locality. How about us using your intellectual property to try and help you in terms of raising the profile of that particular initiative and applying the principles over in the black country. They then pushed the IP over to Social Enterprise UK, who developed the Social Enterprise Town model. And we've just applied that particular structure to the LEP zone, Social Enterprise zones. Okay? So what we're going to do, before we go a bit deeper into that, is just talk about the governance. Actually, just go back one, in terms of governance. So in the black country, after successfully getting the LEP to agree to the concept of social enterprise zones, I also pitched to them I didn't just want a sort of niche, newfangled, shiny thing. I said to them, we need to have a social enterprise champion on the board who had credibility in terms of could sit alongside the local authority leaders and the private sector, but also believed in social innovation, not just talked about it. It was critical. And they appointed someone called, he's Professor now, Professor Chris Handy. Professor Chris Handy is the chief exec of Accord Housing Group, who operate mainly in the black country, but I don't know they're as big as Walsall Housing Group, at the back, but they're quite an innovative group who, I think they've gone into the healthcare now, haven't they, as well? That's right, they just purchased a big healthcare company. Obviously, they do the traditional social housing. So they appointed Chris, and then I suggested what we do is create around Chris a cabinet, not just of bureaucrats. Forgive me if you are one. We have some good bureaucrats, but people who are actually active in the social innovation sector. And so I went round to pick people who I've worked with, who I know could get the jobs done. And we've got one of them here, which is Devinda from Sweden. Used to be Samwell Women's Economic Development Agency, but now they do all things not beyond women. Devinda's a very good person to know, as well as other folks from around that particular structure. And that's when, obviously, we met up with Stephen to do similar operations. So we both have created common terms of reference. Steve, do you want to just go through sort of the headlines of what you've done and what you're doing?
Okay, so we put the group together, and it was a slow burn. And I think one of the messages I'd share with you is don't expect to build Rome in a day. It does take time. It takes time for a group to coalesce. So there's a forming, there's a storming, and there's a performing element to it, and that's just how it is, and that might take 6 or 9 months, and it pretty well did with us. We had academics from the University of the West of England there, so I had Professor Ron Ritchie, who is a Pro-Vice Chancellor. So, I mean, we were pretty heavy hitting. They were good partners to have because they had rooms. They had rooms and they had sandwiches for lunch, and they could, I mean, we can all laugh at it, but actually, if you're bringing people together, you've got to give them tea, you've got to give them some water. If you're meeting over lunchtime, people expect a sandwich, and the university did provide all that, and it sort of helped, and so the group coalesced. I had some social entrepreneurs that had joined the group, not initially, probably 3 or 4 months after we'd formed. Kevin was coming down and helping and stimulating us and keeping us enthused. I had some entrepreneurs, so there was money as well. There were suits as well as doers. So it was an interesting cocktail. We had to go to the LEP board to get authority. So we wrote a paper, and I stood in front of the LEP board, and we asked for their authority to have a proper mandate from them to do some work on social enterprise hubs, as I said we call it. And as Kevin said, the best practice ideas are that there will be physical space. So this is this is something which actually does exist. There might be an academy, so there might be some teaching associated with it. There will definitely be social enterprise support. I mean, on the ground, people who are starting social enterprise need help with the most basic things of doing cash flows, little business plans, how to analyze some basic accounts, and so on, and also some hand-holdings when it goes wrong, because life is not a smooth path, and there are bumps and there are diversions, and those who are on the journey need encouragement and hand-holding when that happens. We felt we would if we developed this properly, we would give those who join the group the opportunity to participate in grants and loans. There are opportunities out there, but they tend to be complex, over complex, I think. Again, people who are starting on the road need some help in terms of navigating. We went back to the LEP, and we told them all of this, so we had authority, and we drafted proper terms of reference. So there was a rigid formality in what we did, and we had a board resolution from the LEP, which gave us the authority to be in business. And I felt comfortable then that we'd done it properly, and the group felt that we had a proper mandate, and that was important. You don't need to do it, but I think it was worth spending the amount of time because it gave us credibility, and then we moved on. Is that enough, Kevin?
So, a common thread for us in the Black Country, creating the cabinet was key. We just didn't want a sort of siloed, out there the social entrepreneurs doing the nice thing in the background. Because Chris physically was on the board himself, around the table, it allowed Chris to speak, and the cabinet that supports him, into every part of the LEPs agenda. So the growth angle, the access to finance, the physical regeneration of areas all should have social innovation as part of it. And I use the term social innovation because it's not just about creating social businesses, but how can we tackle some of the root challenges within our communities so that it's a win-win. It's not just about, you know, the likes of Jaguar, Land Rover, who are our big corporations in our area, and the enterprise zone proper is physically around them. But what about, I don't know, the cooperatives or the charities or the small businesses? How can we get those folks, as well as the big ones, to operate and behave in a way which is responsible for everyone? So, in terms of key actions, creating a cabinet, number one, was important. Getting the LEP to endorse it. And don't forget, around our LEPs, your local authorities, as well as your business sector. Doing a mapping exercise. Mapping exactly what is happening in the locality. So you can actually go and demonstrate, well, these are how many social enterprises are operating in our area. And that's where our local university, Wolverhampton, came to fore, and the intelligence unit of the LEP, Black Country Consortium, came to fore, similar to what Stephen had done in the Bristol area. We then committed that we were going to create social enterprise zones, physical spaces that were mirrored what the enterprise zones were trying to achieve in terms of, yes, physical infrastructure, access to super fast broadband, but effectively a model which allowed the regeneration of particularly of communities where funding is gone, right? Or in the good times, it was challenging to put money into them, but more so now where there's no money about, well, what are we going to do about it? And that's that hanging question. Well, what are you going to do about those communities and those areas? And some of them were town centre, part of town centres. You know, if you know Dudley quite well, we've got the big Maryhill shopping centre, right? Which is a great place, you know, spend a day in your Sunday evening or whatever it is. But if you go to Dudley town centre, lots of shops all boarded up. What happens to the community and life around that? And some of that is part of the challenge which we, as a social enterprise cabinet, have been tasked to address.